I love Julius Malema, but I'm afraid to say he is wrong. He had an interview with a British journalist and he goes all out blazing in support of the crazy policy, the crazy ANC policy of supporting Vladimir Putin and Russia in the Ukraine war and all things political. So we know in this channel I've been telling you that all countries that are aligned to Russia and China are despotic, autocratic regimes, corrupt, that are intending to corrupt the whole political system, and they've got no best interest of the citizens at heart. And the ANC has taken this policy direction to support that part of this global alignment led by Russia. You would think that as an opposition leader, Julius Malema would see this policy inconsistency of the ANC, because South Africa is largely depends on its relations with the United States. Yet the ANC, which is the party that leads the country, is in line with Russia. And Julius Malema, the second biggest black opposition, also is in line with Russia, which means that when it comes to black South Africa, really, you have got the biggest black party and the second biggest black party opposing each other in parliament, but both pro-Russia. Now that's a problem. Malema says that China is progressive, Leninist, and Marxist. And then he says he's all for the majority owning the means of production. Well, who isn't all for that? But then here's the thing. It's not communism that brings that. It's capitalism. Because in an authoritarian government, Mr. Malema, the communist leaders, they own everything. They run everything. They control everyone. Of course, communism failed. Communism and socialism, it failed. These so-called Leninist, Marxist ideas, they all fail. In the Soviet Union failed based on that concept. And now you have got Russia. Okay, the Soviet Union failed. Even in China, Chairman Mao caused a massive misery in China. It's only after when Chairman Mao died that the Chinese began to open up to the West and introduce capitalism to their system. They still call themselves the Communist Party, like the CCP is a Chinese Communist Party, but they've largely integrated into the global system, becoming more and more capitalist. But however, they're still very communist because the economy is closed, the financial flows in China are closed, the closed system. You cannot easily bring in money or take out money in China. That is why the Chinese people invest in a what is it called in the property sector. There's now a bubble in the property sector because Chinese people cannot invest outside China easily. So it's not a free market. It's a controlled market. And even if you're a billionaire in China, look at Jack Ma and other billionaires, they get to be arrested, silenced. So there's control, controlled by the ruling elite, this authoritarian regime. So Julius Malema is inspired by that. I'm very afraid for South Africa if the opposition leader believe that is what it's supposed to happen, like that is hero, that is the right thing to do. But here's the thing: if Malema is concerned about the majority owning the means of production, which also I am for, and everyone should be for, but capitalism does it better than this authoritarian communist regime. Capitalism helps or allows the free market to operate, and him who has the means to produce. Having the means of production is what a government should be focused on in empowering its own people. First of all, in South Africa, to get people to be capitalists, to get South Africans to be capitalists, one needs to look at the education sector. Empower people education wise. Education outcomes in the rural areas and in the locations, in the townships, has to be vastly improved. Investments must be made in the capacity for teachers to teach better, and outcomes to be better, and expand the opportunities in the broader economy. In that way, you create a system whereby the majority of the people are able to own the means of production. By the way, owning means of production isn't everything. That's why I spoke about education, which is critical in maintaining those means of production and becoming productive is when you own them. Look at Zimbabwe. There's people who have got farms, but they're not productive. So ownership does not equate to productivity. Ownership has to be layered on also with education. Okay, education system. So, uh, so as I'm saying that capitalism allows individuals to own the means of the means of production. Uh, and what is also very important is that it makes them participate in competitive free markets, underline competitive, because it means that uh, we will not support or promote mediocrity. All right. A capitalist system does not reward mediocrity, it rewards uh, good workmanship and is punitive to the opposite. So, Malema's support for Russia and hero worship of China, which does not promote free markets, means that South Africa is doomed. Mbalula also was interviewed. He also has got the same sentiments. And I feel like they don't understand. I now believe that the comrades don't understand the position that they are putting South Africa in. I do not think I first of all, okay, first of all, we all the corruption in the ANC is well documented. Okay, I don't have to prove it to anyone, and therefore it's natural that they would align themselves with countries like Russia, where accountability is not pursued. However, that's not enough. I feel like the comrades are not understanding what they're doing. They have no understanding that they're destroying the South African economy. They've got no understanding that their whole economy relies on their relationships with the West. But who cares in the ANC as long as they will make money? So Balula also, he appears to me like he doesn't understand. Okay, here's the thing about Balula. He's just a guy in the ANC who's got a position. That's it. What is he? Secretary General of the ANC. What? Yeah, Secretary General. That's it. So was SG we put you there because some black people lifted their cast their votes for you. But intellectually speaking, the guy doesn't know. Okay, he's incompetent. He doesn't know. Okay. It's not a matter of he understands. You see, there are some other people who understand it. There are some other people who support Russia because they are corrupt, because they've got certain agendas that they want to push, and they don't want to be in the cloud of the West. So they rather be put in, and they will look for ways of supporting that. And they are clever about it. They know what they're doing. It's not the same with Balloon. But Lula doesn't know. Okay, he doesn't know what he's doing, but he's there because they voted for him, and that's what is gonna destroy the South African economy. There's people like Naledi Pondo also who supported this thing. She's supposed to be the clever one in the ANC. I would have thought that she'll be the one who will try to help the ANC to hawk back this stance. But no, she support it. And because she support it, it tells me that, I mean, she's a clever woman. I think she knows what's going on. And this is typical in the rest of African politics. I've seen a lot of African politicians with this anti-Western mantra. It's either they don't understand clearly or they're just acting out of emotion and they're not thinking clearly. Now, I don't think that, but I do not know about Naledi Point. She doesn't appear to me to be a corrupt person or someone who wants to destroy a country. She looks like a person that could lead the country and be pro poor. But that decision to support Russia is wrong. Okay. And I think that is an emotional decision based on not understanding all the facts on the ground. And because of that, I'm beginning to see that South Africa is doomed. Remember, I've been making videos about South Africa since last year. I remember I made a video about a war that Russia will bring to South Africa. That was last year, early last year. I did a prophecy on that. But then I didn't understand what it was all about. But now I see. This Russian invasion of South Africa is very sneaky because they've invaded the ANC first, the ANC which runs the country. Even though the country had political and largely economic relations with the global West, the ANC comes into the picture. Remember, it was the West that allowed ANC to take over from the apartheid government. And the trade deals and the economy of South Africa has been intact and the best in Africa because of South Africa's proximity to the Western countries. You would think that the ANC would understand that. Well, they say that they are non-aligned. When you ask them about Russia, they say they are not aligned to Russia, they are non-aligned. But a non-aligned person doesn't go around having military drills with Russia and China in Cape Town, in a critical place like Cape Town, where you know that it's critical to global trade, and your own country's trade agreement with the United States is what keeps the economy alive. And you go daring and say you're not aligned, but here you are selling weapons to the enemy of the one that feeds you, and you have the enemy of the one that feeds you, I mean, around your territorial waters. Clearly, that's not being non-aligned. Clearly, that is loudly saying, I am aligned to Russia and China, but I'm just gonna make you look like a fool and say I'm non-aligned when I'm actually not non-aligned, and I'm actually, it's like wearing a blue jacket and say I'm not wearing a blue jacket. Like, you are wearing a blue jacket? No, I am not wearing a blue jacket. That's what I'm telling you. Believe what I'm telling you, but I'm hearing what you are saying, but I am seeing you wearing a blue jacket. That's what it is like. And that is an era that the ANC, that's an era that is most likely to bring the ANC down and will make it even difficult for the EFF to rule South Africa. I thought Julius Malema was the guy who will take over from the ANC, but it feels like for South Africa to be right, both the ANC and the EFF are losing the plot, which leaves us with a DA, which is too white. Also, he has not repented, okay, in its approach in addressing the racial inequalities of this country. They are not also not moving in that direction, but at least you need something which is a compromise, which me to me looks like what is it? Built one SA led by Musi Maimane. Musi Maimane was the leader of the DA. He left. So he has got that DA blood, and he's a black man, so he's got black blood. He's got appeal to the black masses, appeals to the white people at the same time. He is not too pro-white or too pro-black or too pro these ones. He's just in the middle. He's a guy who was perfect for me to lead this country forward, to get out of this Russian nonsense that the ANC is doing. And the ANC is going to bury itself because of this. Because in the event of a third world war, and Russia loses that war, even ANC will lose South Africa. And the EFF, which was supposed to take over, would have missed an opportunity. So I feel like Julius Malema have lost an opportunity. With the BBC coming to interview, hey, Malema, that BBC coming to interview was the Western world coming to check what is in your mind. And when they checked your mind, they saw that this is just rubbish. We don't want that. And then in a war, in a world war, and Julius Malema went further. Oh my God. You know, I love Julius Malema. I love Julius Malema because he supports Zimbabweans in South Africa. He is pro-African. He likes Africans to succeed. Even against attacks from South Africans who think that he is too pro-foreigners. But Julius Malema is still supporting African solidarity. For that reason, I love Julius Malema. Yet, this mistake that he makes, and he even says in a war, you would supply arms to Russia. He is telling BBC, he's telling Britain, he's telling the global West, the people that are feeding the South African economy, that are keeping our lights on, that are keeping our jobs. Because we all have jobs in South Africa because of the United States and the United Kingdom. And there is the opposition leader, the one who's supposed to take over from Ramaphosa and the ANC, who was doing absolutely rubbish. He is the one who is doubling down and saying that it's going to be worse than the ANC. He will supply. At least the ANC is denying that they supplied weapons to Russia. Malema is saying he will supply weapons to Russia and he will support Russia. Which means, Mr. Malema, in the case of a third world war, ANC becomes an enemy of the West together with the EFF. And if Putin and China loses the war, Mr. Malema, it means the ANC and EFF lose their political relevance in South Africa. That is why I am looking at Musi Maimane as the next alternative. So that was an interview right there. That was an interview by BBC. That was an interview for the next world order, to see where you stand in the next world order. Because I'm telling you, the next world order is going to be won by the United States. This nonsense that USA is going to lose is a lie. It's what people tell each other. It's the propaganda that Russia pushes across Africa. But they're going to lose. Putin is a mad guy who just invades a country madly. He doesn't even have the economic power to control the whole world. He doesn't have. There's a lot of things that make a superpower a superpower. It's not just having the biggest military. It's, do you understand that? It's also being able to have having a financial system that functions. The United States has got an elaborate, deep, liquid financial system that feeds the whole world. Russia doesn't have that. They only have oil and gas and a few minerals. It's easy. When we've got money, we can buy from them those things. They have got no capacity to govern the whole world. So Malema, my brother, I love you so much. If Malema is listening to this video, I love you so much. Please walk back those statements and go into deep levels of study. Okay, study harder, study deeper, study wide, and come to a conclusion, understanding that when you want to lead South Africa forward and successful, you need to ditch Putin. Otherwise, if you cannot do that, both the EFF and the ANC risk their leadership position in South Africa in the case of a third world war. By the way, third world war, when I say third world war, we're already in one. Okay, that's my assessment. We're already in a third world war. It's just that wars do not always have to involve guns everywhere or bombs. There's already a war. We want to call it the new Cold War or whatever it is, but it's a Cold War or a war. It's already at play. So the People's Generalist was at war. That is war. Okay. To interview to see. Okay. We don't ANC is done and dusted. Okay. It's there's no saving. Then they say, let's go to the next guy, Malema. Or he doesn't see the opportunity. Malema, if you knew it, the opportunity for you to lead South Africa was there on that interview and you blew it. And Julius Malema gets support from all of these Africans who think that, oh, it was a great interview. You know, he stood against the bullies of the West. No, that was a terrible interview. He lost the war because he doesn't understand. You cannot run South Africa successfully under the auspices of the Chinese. The Chinese themselves, we'll talk about the finance. Chinese financial markets are closed. Okay, as I told you, money in China doesn't easily go out or easily comes in. It's a closed system. All right. So if you're going to align yourself with China and Putin doesn't have a financial system. So the Chinese financial system is closed. It's heavily controlled by the CCP. So you are going to be a B, okay, a B to the Chinese, a BITCH to the Chinese. Become their bitch. That's what it means when you align yourself with them. Look what the Chinese are doing to Kenya now. They are hacking Kenyans, what they call this backdoor diplomats, meaning they're going to look for secrets, Kenyan politicians' secrets, and then begin to blackmail them, to concede on certain things. And this is the China Malema that you want to support. Man, Mr. Malema, I thought you were very smart. You're a very smart man. I love Malema. He's supposed to be smarter than this. He was supposed to lead Africa out of darkness, not to lead us into darkness. China and Russia, Mr. Malema, are darkness. See, the problem with our politicians is they speak out of their pockets. Like whoever is in their pockets, they will speak in line with that person. Russians might be sponsoring EFF or whatever, I do not know. But that sponsoring or that alignment is ill-advised. And it will bring South Africa down economically. Because in a case of a global crisis, global war, that's what wars is always about guns. A trade war is a war. Currency war is a war. In a trade war scenario, as the South African Navy blocks the Cape Point or patrols the Cape Point with Russia and China, meaning that they are not allowing the US or US bound goods to move from anywhere in the world passing the Cape of Good Hope. Now that means South Africans can no longer trade with the United States because shipping vessels cannot leave Durban or Cape Town going to the United States when there's China and Russia in Cape Town. Now that it means that is a trade blockade already. What does that mean to the South African economy? Devastating to the South African economy. You have no economy at all. When I say that we have no economy, that's what I mean. There will be no economy. Shops are going to close. Businesses are going to close. High unemployment, poverty. Oh my God. It will be the end of the South African miracle. White people are going to flee. They will go to Europe. They will go to New Zealand and Australia. And blacks will be left with a miserable South Africa. Industries are going to close and industries are going to rot in this country. And the ANC and the EFF ruling elite will be having the money because they've got the political power. They do what they do. What happens in Zimbabwe? In Zimbabwe, just need political connections, then you're gonna be in the money. But it's just gonna be a few of you. But ANC has been refining that act of crony capitalism. So in an event where the economy is crushed, their crony capitalism or comradeship capitalism is going to go into full gear, and they'll be in line with Russia and China, who are the masters of that. And you will see the end of the South African economy. And South Africa will become just like another African country. A few years ago, I was driving with my country, and we passed. I mean, I was driving with my uncle, and we're passing some industries, and he was saying, "Yo, this country is so rich. Will it ever fall?" And I said, "It is possible. It can fall." But then, by that time, I didn't know what can cause the country to fall. Now I know. It is this Russian pivot. It is this insistence by the ANC and the EFF to support Putin. In a trade war, blocking South Africa from European and Western markets will be devastating. When white people flee, it's not just people, it's their capital as well. Not just their capital, it's also their expertise as well. Their managerial expertise, the engineering expertise, uh, their, their management of the system. If that goes, everything goes upside down. You look at ESCOM, how ESCOM is rotting. Imagine if every sector of South African economy begins to rot. Then you will see what things are hard in this country. Now I see how South Africa can go down. That's how it's gonna go down. Then, therefore, the comrades will begin to fight for the resources that are low-hanging fruits, like the mines. Okay, just like Zimbabwe. Okay, the industries are gonna come to a halt. Industrialization in South Africa will come to a halt. Production will come to a halt. In a corrupt country, okay, industrialization falls because the people who take over industries, just like in Zimbabwe, they don't take over so that they can produce. No, they just steal whatever is left. They sell the office equipment, and they steal everything. And by the way, if you're an owner of a business, productivity requires you to put in an effort, because thieves do not want to put effort. Thieves have got no desire to put effort. So because of that, everything falls apart. The same thing in Zimbabwe. ZANU-PF was hijacked by thieves. They took over buildings in Bulawayo and Harare, took over white people's companies. What happened? Because they don't have the capacity to produce. No, do they even have the desire? They want to take. Thieves just want to take. They don't want to produce anything. They are lazy, actually. So what's going to happen is production is going to fall. And because production is going to fall, some industries are going to close down. Because they close down, also it's like it means the whole economy is going to collapse. So in such a scenario, you will get to see that the industrialization of South Africa comes to a note. Industries become like a ghost town, just like in Zimbabwe. All right. So, all because of this pro-Putin thing. And don't tell me what Malema was saying about China's progress. Mr. Malema must know that China's progress came about because of China's alignment with the West in the late 1970s to the 80s and 90s. It's Western capital that flooded China. It's Western uh, firms that established in China and began to turn China into the manufacturing hub of the whole world. That was US capital. You know, in USA, they've got things called the Rust Belt states. These are states in the United States that used to be heavily industrialized, car industries and other industries there. Those industries migrated to China in what we now call globalization and led to an industrial decline in the United States and a benefit to the industries of China. So it was an American money that built China, not Chinese money, not Chinese intellect. So when Malema says he admires China, he must understand that China grew because of Western capital. So when you admire China's growth, you must admire the West. And the West is said is represented by the BBC reporter that was interviewing Malema. And Malema blew it. He did not understand. He was not able to link the dots. So here's the thing. Is it a problem of Malema not understanding anything? Or Malema understanding but actually being corrupt? Because if you understand, corruption will lead you to support Putin. But if you don't understand, emotions will lead you to support Putin. Those are the emotions that Africans are suffering from. The emotions of the African people make them hate the West and support Putin through because of propaganda and because they don't study. They don't study and understand things. They just hear Russian propaganda about how bad America is, and they were always being told about that the Americans also invaded Iraq, so they are war criminals. You cannot just pick one thing, okay, and say, so they must arrest George Bush first before we arrest Putin. Well, that's not a good point to support a war criminal like Putin. Is Putin a war criminal or not? Don't ask. I'm not asking about George Bush or Blair. We're asking about Putin. Is he a war criminal or not? No, but Tony Blair admitted. How? Tony Blair is not here. We're not talking about Tony Blair. We're talking about Putin. So you see, there's no reason that they bring up around. I mean, to support Putin, to say Putin, whatever Putin is doing is okay. If you confront them with the issue that Putin is a war criminal, they begin to say, but others also are war criminals. So it means that, okay, therefore means that it bothers me because what are you saying? If others are war, so are you saying, because the question is Putin a war criminal? Yes or no? He is a war criminal. That's the answer that you must get. Not to tell us apart, but also others are war criminals. You must first arrest those ones. So we can get deeper in the issue of Iraq on another day and another time. We don't have the time for that. But then it means that essentially you'll be aligning yourself with these rogue nations, these rogue leaders like Putin. And then it means that it's either South Africa is going to be in ruins in 5 to 10 years' time. If the ANC is still in power and the ANC still supports Russia and Putin, and the new Cold War against Russia and Putin, it prevails, which might lead to hot wars in other places, including Ukraine and Taiwan. You will see that on the African front, we are having this war, this Cold War here in South Africa, and if an ANC keeps on aligning itself to Russia, it's gonna cause an economic meltdown in South Africa, which is gonna be a depression, which is gonna be terrible. All right. The only way to cure it is to bring my Musa Maimane up front to let him lead this country in the right way, and that way South Africa can be revived. Otherwise kunzima.